Sometimes the most important stories are about the quiet ones, those who find strength when all seems lost. This is the story of Esther, an ordinary girl with an extraordinary purpose. She lived simply, but God had a plan for her that would change history. Esther's journey reminds us that courage can come from the most unexpected places. One person's bravery can change the world. Esther's story is ancient, yet it still speaks to us today. It's about faith, hope, and standing up for what's right even when afraid. Esther didn't seek to be a hero, she was thrust into power and danger. Her story isn't just about wearing a crown, it's about the weight and responsibility it brings. In ancient Persia, ruled by King Xerxes, Esther's people, the Jews, lived as exiles. They tried to keep their traditions and faith alive in a foreign land. Esther, a young woman from this community, was about to be swept into the heart of the kingdom's history. This is a tale of suspense, villains, heroes, and palace intrigue. But at its core, it's about a young woman's choice to risk everything for her people. Esther's story challenges us to consider our own courage. What would we do in her place? Where do we find our strength? Even in darkness, a single light can shine the way. Esther's journey is a call to action for all of us. It's a reminder that our stories matter. We too can make a difference. The story begins in the vast Persian Empire under the rule of King Xerxes. Among the exiles, Esther's quiet life is about to change forever. She will soon stand at the center of her people's fate. This is more than history, it's a living story of courage and hope. And it all starts with a girl, a crown, and a kingdom to save. Esther's rise to royalty began with a grand banquet thrown by King Xerxes. During the festivities, Queen Vashti refused the king's command to appear before his guests, choosing dignity over display. Furious, Xerxes removed Vashti as queen and sent out a decree to find her replacement. A search began for the most beautiful young woman in the land. Esther, a Jewish orphan known for her beauty and kindness, was taken to the palace. She entered a world of luxury and competition, far from everything she knew. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Esther handled her new life with grace. When her turn came, King Xerxes was captivated by her inner strength and gentle heart. He placed the royal crown on her head, making her queen of Persia. An orphan girl from an exiled people had become the most powerful woman in the land. It seemed like a fairy tale, but a great challenge was waiting just around the corner. Esther's new position would soon test her courage in ways she could never have imagined. Her journey from orphan to royalty was only the beginning. The fate of her people would soon rest in her hands. Esther's story shows that even the least likely among us can be chosen for greatness. Her life was about to change the course of history, and the true test of her courage was yet to come. When Esther entered the palace, she carried a secret, her Jewish identity. Her cousin Mordecai, who raised her, warned her not to reveal her heritage. In Persia, being different could be dangerous. Esther obeyed, hiding her faith and background from everyone, even the king. Living with this secret was a daily challenge. She had to guard her words and actions, unable to fully be herself. Yet Esther showed wisdom and discipline beyond her years. Her hidden identity became both a shield and a burden. She was a queen among strangers, her true self concealed. This secret would become the key to her destiny. Sometimes survival means waiting for the right moment to reveal who you are. Esther's silence was not shame, but strategy. Her secret was a seed, waiting for the right season to bloom. Soon, it would change everything for her and her people. Mordecai was more than Esther's cousin, he was her guardian and mentor. He raised her with love and taught her faith and integrity. Even after Esther became queen, Mordecai watched over her from the palace gates. One day, he overheard a plot to assassinate King Xerxes. Mordecai quickly sent word to Esther, who warned the king. The plot was foiled, and the king's life was saved. Mordecai's loyalty was recorded in the royal chronicles, though he received no reward at the time. This act of faithfulness would later prove crucial. Mordecai's wisdom and vigilance anchored Esther in a world of uncertainty. His actions set in motion events that would shape the fate of a nation. Sometimes, quiet acts of loyalty have the power to change history. Mordecai's watchful eye was a lifeline for Esther and for her people. Enter Haman, the king's most powerful official, proud, arrogant, and hungry for honor. The king ordered all to bow to Haman, but Mordecai refused, bowing only to God. Haman's wounded pride turned to hatred not just for Mordecai but for all Jews. He devised a plan to destroy every Jew in the Persian Empire. Haman convinced King Xerxes that the Jews were a threat, offering a fortune to have them wiped out. The king, trusting Haman, gave him authority to issue a deadly decree. A date was set for the annihilation of the Jewish people. The shadow of death fell over the exiles. Haman's evil plan threatened an entire nation. The fate of Esther's people now hung in the balance. Hatred and prejudice had set a terrible plot in motion, but the story was far from over. Esther's courage would soon be put to the ultimate test. The kingdom's darkest hour was approaching. The decree for the Jews' destruction spread panic and grief. Mordecai mourned publicly, urging Esther to plead with the king for her people. But approaching the king uninvited meant risking her life. Esther hesitated, knowing the danger. Mordecai's message was clear. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther realized her entire life had led to this moment. She faced an impossible choice: risk her life or remain silent. Esther chose courage. She asked Mordecai and the Jews to fast for her. She would go to the king, even if it meant death. Esther's decision would determine the fate of her people. Sometimes destiny calls us to act, no matter the cost. After 3 days of fasting, Esther dressed in her royal robes and approached the king. Her life hung in the balance as she waited for his response. King Xerxes welcomed her, extending his golden scepter. Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet, using patience and strategy. At the first banquet, she delayed her request, inviting them to a second banquet. This built suspense and gave Haman time to grow overconfident. Esther's wisdom was as vital as her courage. At the second banquet, the king pressed her for her true request. Esther finally revealed her plea: "Spare my life and the lives of my people." She exposed Haman as the enemy behind the plot. The king was enraged. Haman, terrified, begged for mercy. The king ordered Haman's execution on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. But the danger wasn't over. The original decree still stood. The king gave Esther and Mordecai authority to write a new decree. The Jews were granted the right to defend themselves. What was meant to be a day of destruction became a day of deliverance. Esther's courage had turned the tide. On the night between the banquets, the king remembered Mordecai's loyalty and honored him publicly. Haman's pride became his downfall as he was forced to honor Mordecai. At Esther's second banquet, she revealed Haman's plot. The king ordered Haman's execution. Esther and Mordecai wrote a new decree, empowering the Jews to defend themselves. The day meant for their destruction became a day of victory. Sorrow turned to joy, and mourning to celebration. The Jewish people were saved. Esther's bravery and Mordecai's wisdom had changed everything. The story of Esther became a legacy of hope. Esther's story is more than ancient history. It's a lesson for us all. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Esther used her voice to stand up for the vulnerable. We all have influence, no matter how small. Community and solidarity give us strength in hard times. Esther didn't act alone. She relied on Mordecai's wisdom and her people's support. Her story reminds us to look for our own, for such a time as this moments. Our lives have purpose, and we may be called to make a difference. Even in darkness, hope can prevail. Esther's legacy is celebrated in the Festival of Purim, a reminder of deliverance and courage. Her story calls us to live bravely, act wisely, and hold on to hope. Like Esther, we too can change the world. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more inspiring videos and uplifting stories.